Hey, 28 millimeter RPG. I love how technology works. It's like it. Recent updates have really updated things on my Steam Deck doesn't look the same. It looks so weird. Um. Anyways, what was I gonna talk about? Oh, I got when I returned to the hobby. I took a hiatus from well, I started role playing games back um I guess be 79 78. I picked up Gamma World and had no idea what it was, and then I got into role playing games afterwards once I was shown exactly what a role playing game um what it consisted of. So being that I was a board gamer before, playing a lot of Avalon Hill and stuff like that, we had a small close group of friends that we ended up playing a lot of board games, a lot of war games, stuff like Starship Troopers and Axis and Allies and all kinds of different things that were going on in those years that came along. And at the same time, learning about role playing games and getting into those with the same group, and then the group expanded, and eventually I ended up just you know things take over uh, job and other hobbies took over. I used to play music and in bars and stuff like that, with a group, and I kind of like it ended up I stopped playing role playing games in, about in the mid 90s. My band was like really hitting some hot spots there, and I thought, we were doing recording and stuff for all original material, but there was such a twist in the music industry that we ended up just giving up, because the bars weren't employing bands anymore. They were employing DJs because they were cheaper. So the band thing kind of just went gone. A lot of people say grunge killed bands. No, it was our daily livelihood got killed from the bars, because we used to play at the bars all the time, and suddenly they weren't employing us anymore. Like I say, DJs were cheaper. So I ended up getting married, having kids, and getting a house, mortgage, all that stuff, and we, and basically it was from base roughly my very late 20s was when I got when I considered anything of any kind of marriage or anything like that. But I ended up getting married in my 30s, my mid 30s. So, but that was yeah, I got married in 2000, and had kids. The kids were old enough. We're starting to get to that age, being about 7, 8. The kids were sufficient enough to do their own things, but I thought, maybe I could introduce them to role playing games and stuff that I used to like. So so I started getting back into it, and that was about 2007, 2005, 6, 7, somewhere along in there. Started getting into it, like reading up on it, seeing what people were doing, and the game had changed a lot. And something I've never told really on my channel was when I came back, I started playing with a group that was playing Castles and Crusades, and they were using Fantasy Grounds. So I first showed up with the free version of Fantasy Grounds to join up with their games, and I thought, okay, Fantasy Grounds looks pretty cool. They showed me how everything worked. And what happened was I got into my first game with a group, and it was really weird because I upset one of the players, like really upset one of the players. And the problem was I was playing a wizard with a low wisdom. So I was playing him more like Orpheus, uh from the Venture Brothers kind of idea. I had this idea, okay, he's going to be kind of weird and eccentric and stuff like that. And that's how I play it. And it was really pissing off one of the players because that player was a board gamer and he didn't understand that I was role playing my character. And he was getting so mad that he was like threatening me. And the other guys were like, hey, what's the other guys were cool. They were like, wow, this is this guy Rick joined us and he's role playing, And yeah, the one guy was so mad. They had to kick him because he was uttering threats and everything. I was just laughing, because I thought, man, this guy is. But there's some people out there that really take offense when you're not playing the same way they are. So, and to me, it doesn't. You know, I'll try to convince other people to try role playing because there's been a lot of games that I've been seeing online. Even Bruce Lombardo. I have no problems with people wanting to play uh games with the miniatures and stuff like that. I play a lot of skirmish games, but I play board games and skirmish games with miniatures, and I keep away from using them from a role playing game because a role playing game is more, to me, more of a mindset kind of thing. So, and I prefer to use my imagination in role playing because your brain is the thing that makes the pictures in your head and not the miniatures and all this other stuff. You got once you start exercising your brain to take something being described to you and imagining it. I think a lot of people have lost that kind of ability. Like they just don't associate a role playing game as using your head, and they go ahead and equate it to what they see on a screen now, like a computer role playing game, like Baldur's Gate, all those games, Fallout, the original, series Fallout, move your mice, roll the dice kind of thing. And that's what people think that a role playing game is, with a little bit of Q&A with NPCs, and to me that's not how a role playing game is supposed to be played. So I tried to kind of conform to the whims of how people play nowadays, and I've tried it. I've even tried it in uh my early live plays of Traveler, not too long ago, trying to do that, using the tokens and the maps. I hate it. I one of the I just can't bring myself to do it. I can put a map on a screen like of a ship, and it's just so that everybody has the same context of the bridges here. They know that there's a common room. They know that there's a couple of staterooms coming off of there, and then there's the cargo bay, and they know where the airlock is and everything. Everybody has a composite idea of what their ship entails. So, and how they describe the innards of their ship, that's entirely up into the theater of the mind kind of thing. So um that thing is an experience that only the brain can come up with. And I've never given any aspects of what their ship actually looks like, but all those players have their own ideas of what, whether or not there's exposed venting or if it looks like the Millennium Falcon kind of controls and stuff. I've described stuff like screens coming up and, kind of like a visual 3D kind of context of some sort of a broadcast kind of thing that goes in front of them. It give them like a HUD, three-dimensional HUD before them so that they can, understand the context of everything surrounding their ship. And it's up to them to have an idea in their head of what that ship looks like. And I'm not going to do anything to kind of dissuade that kind of thought process in each of the players, because every player thinks differently. So grandkids, best grandpa ever. I loved the cups that I get from my kids. So I wish they would give me more. These pictures need to be updated because they've grown up a little bit. So, anyways, that's my grandkids on that cup. So, so yeah, I had, when I returned, it was a bit of a weird thing. So, and having somebody so upset at me that they were actually threatening to, like, find out where I lived and strangle me. They had no idea who I was or whatever. This is the first time I ever encountered. But like I said, this guy got kicked from the group because he was really unhinged, like massively unhinged. And then I just continued playing with the group for a couple of years, and I've actually had a couple of those players join my game, and that was more. We played more theater of the mind, but I did kind of use a little bit of maps so that they could understand what was going on, because I knew some of them were still in that headspace where they weren't understanding the old ways of role playing when we couldn't afford miniatures and hardly anybody had any miniatures. And when we did have miniatures, it was just for, doing a war game kind of thing on the floor, with mountains made out of blankets and stuff like that. Because that was the way we used to use miniatures back then. And once in a while we'll use them in a context to show where you are standing in a room, and it wasn't used in any kind of measurement or anything. It was just so that people understood the context of the room, its contents and everything. So, which was kind of rare. Most of it was just all theater of the mind too. So that's just the way it was. I just thought I wanted to speak up about that before I had to go to work today. So there we go. I don't know. Still reading up on a lot of Vampire the Masquerade, and I've been talking to old King Waspinator, through comments, prompting him on some more ideas, and I like his videos on the World of Darkness, which is cool. I'm trying to get into it because I've never gotten into Vampire, and I'm watching a few videos on how to play Vampire and some role play sessions on Vampire the Masquerade. And I have an idea to get some players into it. I figure I'm going to start them off like, Hunter the Reckoning, and they're just so that they can get, because these players, they also don't know anything about Vampire the Masquerade, and to throw them into being part of the Sabbat or the Camarilla is kind of like a putting somebody into shoes of an alien, that's like a blob or something, and they don't understand how they can, move around or stuff like that. So with vampire, the context of being a vampire, you have to kind of understand the how the family works, and what their laws are, and how their you know how their motives work and stuff like that, to introduce them into the setting first as humans that are hunting vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. I thought would get them into more of the mindset of the whole scene of monsters, living with humans kind of idea, but in the shadows. um so yeah, I thought that would kind of give them more, grounding, being humans first, and then understanding how, vampires work, or werewolves, and stuff. And then once they got a foothold into that world that way, they're like, ah, okay, now I would like to play a vampire. I have an idea of what vampire, society is like, from learning it from, my character as a human, looking at from the outside in. Then we can go ahead and build up on making vampire characters, and they'll be like, yeah, I feel at home, instead of being dropped into a alien society and not understanding anything. So anyways, that's what I was wanting to talk about, is my first, coming back into role playing games and what that was like. I thought I'd expound on that. But hey, if you like what you see, and you think you can learn from it, I'm learning things from you. You learn things from me. We all learn together. Subscribe. Just hit it. Just do it.